Hope you can see my screen, correct? Uh,
Yes, it's visible.
okay. So anyone have any idea like what is a Python? What is programming? So that I'll explain in detail. Like if you have any knowledge on any programming languages, like other than Java or like other than Python, any language is also fine. Like any idea or any exposure to programming.
I know JavaScript actually.
Okay, that's also a programming language, right? So it's
Right.
scripting language indirectly, but it's okay. We have knowledge on something else, like some programming language at least. Okay. So, in general, programming is nothing but a set of instructions which we are providing to a computer to do some task. Is it correct? That means to execute some task, we are writing some programming. So we are writing some lines of code to make the task to be executed. Correct. So in the sense, if I say in general, we have n number of programming languages available in the market, but still Python is one of the trendiest programming or niche programming language in the market, just because the features offered by Python is making that Python to like shoot out in the number one position. So if we consider about a few features, so one is easy to code in the sense. So assume you know JavaScript as you said. So or any other, if you consider any other language like Java, the like it will take around if you want to execute one piece of task, that I'll assume it is an hello world program, which is taking around 5 to 7 lines of code. But if you want to do the same task using Python, it will take only one line of code. And what will happen is, because of this, it will be a human readable form. In the sense, there are two forms. One is an high level programming language, another one is a low level programming language. Any idea in like what is a high level or any low level programming language means? You guys have any idea? Okay. So high level in the sense, whatever if we see with with that lines itself, with that syntax itself, you have to get to know what it will mean. That means if you write a simple line, based on the syntax that is Python having, making that we can able to learn easily. So that's called easy to code and easy to learn as well. So the second thing is free and open source. Free in the sense, so for downloading that software, like for downloading Python and installing on your machine, and you want to run some piece of code, you no need to pay any single subscription fee for them, because Python is a free. And coming to the open source in the sense, currently you are allowed to download the source code of a Python, and you can able to manipulate the data, or you can modify the file like source code files, and you can release the latest version. So the current version of the Python is 3.12. Okay, but you can download the 3.12 source code, and you can enhance, you can add some features to it, and you can release your own version. That means that much flexibility is available with Python. Okay, till now any doubts? If I'm going fast also, please let me know so that I'll go slow. Any doubts?
No,
Hello.
sir.
Okay, hope you are clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So coming to the object-oriented programming language, that means Python is supporting multiple paradigms. It will be Python is also an object-oriented programming language. It's a procedure-oriented programming language, and also a structure-oriented programming language. Assume we have other programming languages like C, Java, and all, right. So C is a procedure-oriented programming language or a structure-oriented programming language, but Java is an object-oriented programming language. If you learn Java, you are only allowed to write it in OOPS concepts. There is no paradigm like procedure oriented and all. But if you learn Python, you can able to write in both. You will be allowed to write in OOPS and also with the functions are procedure oriented. Coming to the next feature, that's called interpreted programming language. In the sense, there are two types of. So once we suppose, like I will show you an example. Okay. Can you able to see my screen? I just reshared with other tab. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So currently I have written like one piece of line. Okay. Print hello. I'm trying to print hello world program. Assume. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to print hello world program. So if you based on the line itself, you are get to know that we are printing something which is nothing but an hello world. That's why it's called, just because of the line itself is telling it's a high level programming language. Okay, how this execution is happening on the back end? We are writing something on the console here, and how a machine is understanding what we are providing as an input, and how we are getting an output. So in the back end, there is some process needs to be ran, right? So that process is nothing but whether it might be a compilation or interpretation. In the sense, so whatever we are written is an human readable form. That means machine cannot understand whatever we have written on the here. Machine only understand low level, that is a 0 and 1. Correct. So to convert this hello world into a process, like into a term or into a single line of code where machine is able to understand, that is called converting into a, whether it might be a compilation or an interpretation. These are the two things where it converting a high level language into a low level language. So Python is an interpreted programming language following interpretation. In the sense, it takes, so assume we have written one line of code here, and there is one more line of code which is, okay, this one. So what will happen here? So one first time interpretation, in the sense, it will start executing from the first line, and then once soon after this completed, it will run the second line. Okay, that means first it is executing this line, then only it will come to execution into the second line. That means line by line, it will convert into a low level language. That's called an interpretation. Coming to the compilation, that means it will take out everything. That means it will take all these lines, and then it will start executing. That means whenever if there is a error in line 1 and there is a error in line 10, assume if you have written 15 lines of code, then two errors will be thrown to the console. But coming to the Python, if there is an error in the first line, then the execution won't go to the second line. It will be stopped at the first line itself. That's the difference between compilation and interpretation. So coming to the portable in the sense, we have written, assume my mission is in Windows mission. I have written in the Windows server, that means Windows platform. And if I take out this piece of code and if I can able to run it on the Linux machine, like that means if there is no errors or like whatever, wherever you have written, if you are allowed to execute in multiple places, then it's called a portable. In the sense, Python is portable. You are allowed to write it in one like you are allowed to write it in the Windows, and then you can execute the same thing in Linux as well. Not only Linux, whatever the OS that you have. Okay, that's called portability. Extensible feature in the sense, your application is having multiple like your application is a Java oriented. Okay, you have written in Java, but there is a piece of code, there is a module which you are written in Python. You want to integrate this Python into a Java, you are allowed to do that. That's called extensible feature using Python. You can able to do that. Okay, so these are some of the features, and the main feature is a large standard library. In the sense, if you are dealing with any you are building a larger applications. Assume anyone know about ChatGPT? Hello.
Yeah, I know about ChatGPT.
Okay. So ChatGPT is an LLM model, correct? It's a machine learning model which is developed with the Python itself. But here it is built with some of the large data sets, correct? So to train that model and to test that model, we have n number of to build that model itself. There are they you have used n number of Python modules like NumPy, Pandas. Not only these are basic. There are n number of big modules they have used. So wherever your application might be a machine learning or your application will be a web development, for every area there are n number of libraries that are available. That means for a simple operation, assume you are trying to insert some data into a database. Okay, if it is a database is an Oracle, you have an Oracle connector like SQL Alchemy or Oracle DB. So these are all the libraries which actually helps us you to connect connect, makes as a bridge between Python and Oracle database. So without these libraries have not there, you have to write everything manually. So which is taking around, assume it will be a lot of effort, and it will take around 100 to 150 lines of code to insert to make a connection to the database. But if you use the library, it will be a single just one line of code. You can able to connect to the databases. So now this is a simple, assume it is just a simple database operation. When you are dealing with machine learning models, it will be a very tough, right? If it will be a very complex to write those scripts and all with very like a manual process. If you use some libraries and all, it will be easy. That's why large of like for every area there are n number of libraries that are available in Python. And the last but not the least, but we have n number of feature. I have included only few. That's called dynamically typed language. In the sense, assume you have defined a variable a equals to 10. So based on the value itself, it will take, it will tell so what type it is. You are not defined any value, like based on the value that you have passed to a variable a, it will tell, it will be an integer. Anyway, we all know, right? So 10 is an integer. So you no need to define what is the type that we have to make the value a. Whatever the value that we are passing to a, based on that, the type will be allocated at runtime. So this is the one of the best feature. Okay, so till now any doubts? These are all the basic features of Python, but we have n number of features available. Any doubts till now? Silence, I'll take it as no. You are clear with it. So the next thing is like how a process will be, like how a Python will convert or how a Python script will be running. So assume it is just our source code. Compiler or interpreter take our code and interprets into a byte code, and that byte code will be transmitted to the virtual machine, our Python virtual machine, and it makes out the running code. Suppose if you return Python hello, print hello, it will take to the compiler will convert into a bytecode, which is like third part the mid range between middle level mid language between and high level and low level, I can say. That virtual machine take those things and it will send to the console. So where and all the areas that Python is being used, these are in high level areas, but we have other areas where Python is using. One is web development, another one is web applications, script system scripting, data analysis, machine learning, AI. So everywhere we are using Python. Not only this in cloud computing areas and all, we are using Python. So these things and all I'll explain in detail in the next sessions. This just I want to in high level demo. So any questions till now? If you have any questions, please feel to me ask. Okay, no questions. Okay, that's fine. No questions. Any questions? Anything you want me to discuss further? Okay.
No questions, sir.
Okay. I'll show you what and all we are covering in these areas. One second. I'll share my screen again. Yeah. One second. I'll open. I'll share my screen. Okay. So, anyone know like how to write a simple hello world program?
I know, sir.
Okay. Uh, in what which programming language?
C,
Okay.
Python.
Cool. I'll share my screen. Like I'll explain in detail, like how we can able to write. Okay. So, like, do you want me to explain from the scratch? I'll do that. Like, so what and all the limitations that we have with Python, what and all we have. So I'm trying to share my screen. One second. Hope you can see my screen, correct? So I'll discuss with topic one thing. So anyone know what is an identifier, Sunda? So I don't think so. We have to explain the features again. Do you want me to explain the features again? Okay, I'll explain from the versions. So what are the versions that we have available with Python, and what is the okay. So currently the Python versions, there are three major versions that we have released till now. So one is the what 1.0 version is released on 1994, and the 2 dot version, I think 1.0 most of the people not aware of it, and the next version 2.0 and 2. Anyone having any idea like why there is a drastic change between 2.0 and 3.0? Any like I would just want to know any having idea with Python 2.x? Like you guys know Python, right? Already some basics at least. No? Okay. So there are two versions released on the same year on like with 2.0 and 3.0. Currently, the 2.0 markets are not there. Like Python community not supporting the 2.0 versions just because whatever the features or whatever the libraries that we are using in the 2.0 versions is not up to that mark with the whatever the technologies that we are using. So that's why they are discontinued with the 2.x versions, and we have only from 3.0 we are using Python in every in most of the application. Still we have few of our applications on the legacy and 2.0, but in 3.0 we have most of our applications because what's happened like previously there are versions 2.0, but everyone moved to 3.0 just because wherever we are using Python 2.2, whatever the functions that are they are used are deprecated and no longer is supported for the 3.2. In 3.2, those functions are removed. Okay, that's just a theoretical one. Okay, not much into technical. So we'll speak up more about the identifiers. So what is an identifier? Anyone having any idea? No. Okay. So identifiers are actually a name in Python programming. So whatever the name that we have given to an object is called an identifier. Assume we are providing a equals to 10. So here a is nothing but an identifier. A name given to an I can say name given to an object. Okay, that's called an identifier. It can be a class name or a function name or module name or anything. So this is a variable, right? A equals to 10 is a variable. A is a variable. Okay. 10 is a value that we are passing to a variable. So A is nothing but a identifier here, and 10 is a value, and this is nothing but a variable. Okay. This is called a variable, and anything that we are giving to a name, that's called a that's called an identifier. So what and are all the rules that Python is like Python is allowing to define the identifiers? So one is the only characters allowed in Python are the only allowed characters in Python are, so one is an alphabet symbols, either lowercase or an uppercase, and the digits 0 to 9 and the underscore. So these are called, so these are the only allowed characters that you can able to given to a variable. Assume you are trying to, so I'm giving, so alphabets are allowed. Then the sense alphabets, it might be a capital case or small case. So I'm giving mixed one here equals to some thousand. Okay, this is one variable. So this is allowed. So it will print, if you print this value, it will print thousand. Okay, it will print thousand. And it will allows digits as well. Okay, that means A B C 24 34 equals to some uh, X. Okay. Or anything, but I will give you a values only, some triple one. If I print this, sorry, if I print this, there won't be any error. Okay, it will give the value. And the allowed characters underscore is also allowed. If I give underscore in between here, this is also allowed. It will give the same value. But if I give any value other than these three mentioned values, suppose dollar is not mentioned here, so I'll remove ABC dollar. I'll give dollar. What it will throw? It will throw an error. That syntax error will come because invalid syntax. Because the only identifiers that we have to give is alphabets with either lowercase or uppercase. It will be supported digits 0 to 9 because the digits are always all from 0 to 9 only, correct? And then underscore, only underscore is allowed. If you give any other character other than these three things, it will throw an error. Okay, that's called that. Those are the those are the things that it will Python will be allowed. And next thing, so any questions on identifier? So that's called an identifier. An identifier is nothing but a name. Okay, name given to either class or a value or a variable or any method or function. Okay, any questions? No questions. Okay, and if you are not allowed to use any other functions like any keywords. Assume we have few keywords, like some of the keywords like def. How you can able to get to know? So if I write previous one, the ABC, assume if I write ABC, there won't be any color change to that function, to that identifier, because this is not a reserved words. So these are called reserved words. Reserved words in the sense there is a something meaning behind in the Python. So they are used def for a separate functionality. That's why it is giving in a different color to easily you can able to identify. You cannot use keywords to define a variable. Like you cannot use predefined keywords to define anything. So it will throw an error. See if you see again syntax, invalid syntax, because the way that we have to use def is different and the way that we are using def here is different. That's why it will throw syntax error. But coming to the ABC, ABC is not a predefined keyword. It's not a keyword in Python. That's why you can give anything here. You can give a ABC 0 and then you can print it. It will allow to print. I am not printing, that's why it is not. Okay, let me print. So it's allowing. That means there is no separate meaning in Python for ABC. That's why it's printing this value. So we are allowed to use those things. And what is the length? So till now we are writing the identifier with the 3 to 4 lines. So how many we are using? Here we are using the length is 3. Here the length is 4. Again, it's failed one. So till like how many characters we can able to give? You can give n number of length. There is no length limit. So I'm giving this much of length and I'm assigning value 10. If I able to print this, it will give 10. If you are able to do this, it will print. There is no length limit of a defining an identifier. Okay. So can you tell me, so which under all valid here and which is not? I'll define something here. So can you tell me that this one is valid keyword or a valid identifier or not? The first one, 1, 2, 3 total. Hello.
It's a valid keyword.
It's not a valid keyword just because I told it can be a mixture of keys and val. It will be a mixture of alphabets and number, but alphabet should be starting in the initial. That means if you design defined like this, syntax error will come, decimal literal, just because the first value should be always a character, that means an alphabet, and the second one will always a anything, it might be anything. So in this case, total 1 2 3 is valid, just because it's reverse of this. Okay, Java to share, again it's whatever the first
Valid
letter.
one.
Yeah, the first letter is always starting with a character, and then the next thing, only characters are there and numbers are there, so it's valid. And coming to the cache, it's cache here, not as
Not
a dollar.
valid.
Yeah, just because dollar is included here. And coming to the fifth one,
It's not valid one.
okay, fifth one is not a
Because of
valid.
underscore is starting.
No, only limitation is first letter should not be a integer, and underscore are allowed to be defined previously. That means if you take out the same value here, and I'll assign some X number. If I enter, like I'll print this, it will print. So only digits, I'll, for better understanding, I'll write the comment here. Only digit should not start first. Okay. Anything, but it you can able to start with digit, with digit. Sorry, you can able to start with alphabet and underscore. Okay, now tell me whether this is valid, sorry, valid or not, equals to some triple zero, whether it's valid or not.
It's not valid.
It's not valid. Why?
Valid. It's
You're
valid.
filling only two conditions, right? It should,
It's valid.
only digit should not start first. It's not starting with digit. Alphabet underscore can be a first. Yes. After underscore, you can give anything that or any digit or alphabet you can able to give, but you should not allowed to give any special character. You are giving alphabet and digit. I'll print it for you. So it's printing, na? So triple zero is nothing but zero only, na? That's why it's printing only zero. So coming to this, now tell me whether DEF is allowed or not. I'm defining like this, triple two. Whether it's allowed or not.
It is not allowed to
Yeah, just because
because of
these are keywords.
keyword.
Yeah, keywords in Python. So you are not allowed to use it. Forget about what is keyword. How can you identify? What is keyword? As we are not discussed about keywords and all. Forget about it. But you can easily identify with the color. For your, I'm just saying for your tip. So as the DF is in a different color. If you compare with these things, these are just a normal black colors, correct? But DF is in a different green color, bold green color. That's why you can able to assume it is a keyword. If I print this, it will so throw some error. Okay, coming to the last one. Now tell me whether whether I can able to assign this or not. Whether, tell me whether if is an identifier here, whether we can able to use it as an identifier or not. I just told you previously, tip itself, how can you identify keywords.
It's a keyword. It will not define because it's
So it's a different than the other one previously defined, correct? That's why if is a keyword, so you are not able to use those keywords as an identifier. If I print this, it will throw an error again. Okay. Now one last one. Now they tell this one, and then you we are good to we are good with the identifiers. I want to give some tricky e dollar underscore two underscore fcd. I am assigning it to some triple nine, double nine. Okay, triple nine. Now tell me whether this is allowed or not. Not dollar. Okay, I'll give it something and okay. Now tell me whether this is allowed or not.
It is not allowed
Why?
because of
Yeah, yeah. Tell me whatever
because
you are thinking. Please tell me whether it might be correct or wrong. Don't worry
because
about
end is not there
and
actually
is
we
not.
are using.
it. Correct. So it's not allowed. If I print this, like it will fail. So it will throw an syntax error. The only allowed characters are and, number, and an alphabet. So we are using and symbol here. So it will throw error. Cannot assign some error. It's okay. Forget about what error it is, what and all. Forget about it. It's not allowing. That's okay. This is called an identifier. Identifier is nothing but a high level, if I say its name. Okay, how we are identifying a person with the name itself, right? That's called an identifier. So how can we identify objects in Python? With the identifier. Sorry, name might be for a variable, for a var. Forget about what is var, what is class, what is method, what is function, and all. We'll explain all these things in detail coming sessions, but I want to tell you a name, whatever the name that we are giving to any one of these is called an identifier. So this is one topic which is very fundamental to the Python. Okay, so any doubts in the where in identifiers? If any doubt also, please let me know. I'll explain in detail again as well. Yeah, yeah.
We are having so many types of identifiers in Python, right?
Yes. So
This is one
identifier.
of the type you have explained.
No, this is an identifier. And the way you are defining identifier is you should have to follow two rules. One is it should not starts with a number, and only allowed characters are underscore and uppercase or lowercase characters, lowercase words, alphabets. That's it. Only identifier in the sense this is the only identifier in Python. You don't have any other identifiers in Python.
Okay, defining identifier you have explained, right? Right.
Yes, correct. In detail in the coming session. Suppose you want to write an hello world program, or suppose assume you are printing an sum of two numbers. Anyone know how to do that one? So assume we are defining the two numbers here. A equals to 10. So a equals to 20. So I want to print those two numbers, a plus b. So this is one program. Okay, for every program where whatever you are writing, there is always an identifier involved in it. So what is called so where we are using identifier here? So what is a here? Forget about it. What is a here? How we are identifying
Ident-
10 here? How you are identifying 10?
because we are assigning a identifier, right?
Yeah. How you are identifying? You are identifying with the a, right? What is a
Right.
here?
Identifier.
So what is b?
That is also identifier.
That's it. So for every program, identifier are must and should. So without identifiers, you cannot able to complete at least one process, one task. Okay. So these are called identifier. The way how you can able to define identifier is, so whatever the steps, like whatever the ways that I have written here. So these are all the ways. These are all the way that you can able to identify and create an identifier. So we don't have any other identifiers in Python. Identifier is nothing but a name. That's it. Understood? Clear? Not clear? Please tell me. I'll explain again. It's not a problem.
Actually, I understood,
Uh-huh.
but before you actually, can you go up? Can you
Okay.
scroll up? Yeah.
Okay.
No, come down.
Okay.
Still coming down.
Till down.
Yeah, stop, stop. Yeah, like 14th line is there, right?
Ah,
14.
14th one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here you have mentioned 1000,
Correct.
and in 18th line you have mentioned double code,
Uh-huh.
codes.
Okay.
Like, is there
So these
difference?
are
Is
no,
there?
no, no. If you see thousand, what is a thousand here? Tell me. It is a number
It is
or
in
it's
this.
it is an integer. Correct. What is this single quotes 11?
That is also integer.
No. This is actually so whatever this is a data type. Okay. Assume the data types is a big concept in Python. I'll explain those things in coming sessions. So data types we have integer, string, we have 14 complex, tuple, list. So we have around 14 data types are there. Okay. So whatever you are written, suppose I have written same thing. I'll take it to the from the 14th line itself. Okay. Oh, sorry, 14th, 15th, 18th line. Okay. I'll take this. See, this is variable. This is an identifier, which is not an acceptable identifier. Correct? Hello.
Yeah,
Whether this
correct.
identifier is correct, valid one or not, you tell me. This is not a valid.
Actually,
Correct.
it's not valid.
Yeah, just because dollar is used, the same thing I'll print. Okay, first I'll print this. Sorry, dollar is not valid. Okay, in that case, I will do ABCD. I'll correct to this ABCD. Okay, it is triple one. So triple one, sorry, this is four ones, which is a string because whatever we are enclosed between single quotes or double quotes, that is called a string. This is not an integer. I'll prove this. Suppose if I print a type of it, type of A, B, C, D, what it will print? It will print str. Okay, this is not an integer. But here, if you consider ABC equals to triple one, here whether it what is this triple one integer or string?
It is
If you are
integer.
yeah, because it's not enclosed between it's a number and it's not enclosed between any single quotes or double quotes. So these are all quotes. Okay, these are all quotes. It's not enclosed in between any single quotes or double quotes. That's why it's an integer. If I print this type of it's an integer. Forget about the data types. Okay, data types I'll explain in detail tomorrow. So data types is a big thing. You should have to be very clear understanding on the data types because it's a core fundamental for Python. Okay, for writing any program, you should have to be like how the identifiers is must, the data types is also a must, because a simple thing, if you are using this four ones in between of integer, the value or the output itself will change. Okay, those things, reserved words, the whatever, what is about reserved words, we actually spoke now, right? Like def, if and all. So what and all the reserved words available, that will explain tomorrow, and then following by data types. I'll get it what I was trying to explain. So tomorrow I'll explain reserved words, what's reserved words, and this will take only one class. Okay, not one class is fine. For coming to the data types, it will take around 3 to 4 classes max to explain the data types, because we have 14 data types available. We should have to be more uh, in-depth knowledge on the data types, because that's a core fundamental. Okay, forget about those, what is it double this value and this value, why it's different. Forget about it if you are not understand it as well. I'll explain those details in tomorrow. But you are clear with identifiers or not?
was clear enough.
Anyone having any like any questions on identifiers, please let me know, because identifiers we will not be speaking like sessions again, but we are using directly, because without identifiers it will be tricky for you as well to write programs. Any questions on identifiers?
No questions, sir.
Okay, you are clear, right? Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
So, so in the coming sessions from for tomorrow, I'll explain the reserved words and I'll start the data types. So I think that's it from my end. If you have any questions, you can ask me now.
Actually, it's
Hmm.
not a doubt.
Okay.
Actually, I don't have any basic knowledge in Python.
Okay, that's okay. That's why we
So,
are explaining from the scratch. That's why it's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
fundamental for Python about identifiers. Okay.
Like any reference you can refer, like
No, for
what?
every class, we will share the material. So whatever the written here, this is in high level I was writing, but we will provide a clear documentation on Python. So what we are explaining in detail, it will be there. So for identifiers, I'll share one document with you, and for for data types, for every concept that we are explaining, this is just a classwork I can say in the whatever I was showing in presentation, but I we will share a clear documentation about it, whatever we spoke in the class. It's a very layman thing. Like whoever don't know about anything also can able to understand whatever with the documentation we providing. Okay, don't worry about that. So just concentrate whatever we are telling on the class. Okay, for the documentation part we will share. So I was expecting whatever I have told in the class. If you are clear with it, then for the next steps, I'll share the documentation and all with you. Okay. I hope you are clear with identifiers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So any questions? No questions? Then I will drop. Okay, if you don't have any questions, then thank you everyone.